Hi everyone, my name is Larissa. I'm a neurobiologist and a person with Charcot-Marie-Tooth disease, or CMT. Today I want to talk about the one thing everybody with CMT should be doing, and that is exercise. When I was finally diagnosed with CMT at the age of 18, after 4 years of going to various doctors in my home country, I didn't know if I should exercise. And if yes, how often, how much, how intense it should be. None of the doctors told me anything about what kind of lifestyle I should be having after being diagnosed with CMT. However, after having educated myself not only about CMT but about human anatomy and physiology in general and about aging, this is a great topic of interest of mine, I realized that exercising is the one most important essential component of living long and healthy. Not only for people with CMT, but for everybody on this planet, every human on this planet. Therefore, I made a list of 7 recommendations that I would like to share with you, which I follow myself in terms of working out. These are based on scientific data, which was collected from not only healthy people, but also people with CMT. The first recommendation I would like to give to you is to do exercise of various modalities. We need to do cardio for our heart, for our cardiovascular system, and not only for that, for our lungs, even for our skin. As soon as the blood comes to the face, we look fresher, we look younger. And of course, just like everybody else, people with CMT are susceptible to all kinds of age-associated diseases, including cardiovascular diseases. Therefore, in order to extend our lifespan, in order to not have heart issues earlier than we could have, we need to do cardio. And for now, the recommended duration of cardio exercise for the week is 150 minutes of moderate intensity. I will make a separate video about what it means. Basically, anything can be cardio. You don't need to jump or run, and actually I would advise against this form of activity for people with CMT because they can cause trauma. But you can do a cross trainer, you can do treadmill, you can do cardio on a chair even. I will record more videos about how to design a workout depending on what equipment is accessible to you. But overall, you can just do cardio anywhere, at home for free as well. In fact, I already have some workouts, cardio workouts. They are all in Russian so far, but I'm going to change that. Meanwhile, you can follow my routines. If you don't understand Russian, that's okay. You can just look and follow along. The next modality that we must include into our workout routines is strength exercise. We can also call them resistance exercise. So everything that includes resisting with your weight against something is included into strength or resistance bands. You can even just get a handle, a mop handle, and basically exercise with it. I have a video explaining how to do that as well. And actually, you can really design it so that it increases your strength very well. This kind of workout should be done at least 2 times a week. I prefer, or I try to do it 2 to 3 times a week, and I use weights. By the way, at the end of this video, I will show you what kind of equipment I have at home. I do all my exercise at home. I don't pay for any subscriptions. I don't go to the gym. I do everything at home. So I will show you what kind of equipment I have. Maybe that will be helpful for you to design your own kind of gym at home. And strength exercise is important not only for the muscles, but also for the bones. And this problem of brittle bones becomes more and more relevant the older you get, especially for women. So that's another point which we will come back to later. You have to exercise actually more the older you get, but it's never late or early to start. So I would recommend you to start right away. The next modality of exercise we should do is exercise to improve mobility. Mobility training, you can actually do it every day. And you can use stretching or yoga or a light version of Pilates to relax, to get rid of stress, and to get rid of all this tension that you have in your muscles. And as a recovery training as well in between strength workouts. The next modality that we should be doing is exercise that improve balance. And here there are several points to mention. First, we do need to strengthen the muscles that are involved in stabilizing the body. And these are core muscles, abs, back, all of these should be strengthened in order for us to keep balance. People with CMT do have impaired balance, and one of the reasons why it happens is because of the instability of the ankles. So of course this is hard to address, but we can strengthen all the other muscles, all the proximal muscles, all the proximal muscles of the core and of the legs. I would recommend doing balance exercises 2 or 3 times a week, but you can actually combine them and do balance, strength, and cardio, for example, at the same time. Finally, people with CMT have problems with their feet and wrists. Therefore, we must do exercise for these body parts. Of course, I understand it's difficult. It's difficult for me as well. And actually, I don't have a very severe form of CMT. So I can imagine how difficult it might be, especially for some people with CMT, especially if you're already older, let's say in your 50s or 60s. It's really hard to do exercise using your feet or your hands. But I would still advise trying to do at least something 2 to 3 times a week, maybe every other day, for hands and for feet. Again, I do have routines which I already recorded, which you can follow for both feet and hands, especially if you are a teenager, if you are young, in your teens, in your 20s, in your 30s, you do need to do these exercises in order to not let the disease progress that fast. The second recommendation I would give to you is to follow moderate intensity. This is again a very vague term, and actually it is usually used to describe cardio workouts. But we can also extend this term to be applied to strength training. What I figured for myself, and I hope that can be helpful for you too, is that not having long, very intense workouts is actually really good. This is also what is recommended, and this is also what is usually tried in the studies. So moderate intensity means your heart should not be working at the very peak, in the peak zone. Again, I will make another video about zones, but it should not be super high for long periods of time. That's one point. The other point is that you should not be doing, let's say, an hour-long strength training where you don't have any breaks, where you lift heavy weights all the time. This is not going to work, especially if you haven't exercised before. You cannot start from heavy weights immediately. You need to build up. So moderate intensity is something that is recommended, and I would stay away from high intensity interval training, so-called HIIT. They have become very popular among healthy people usually because they're very short and it feels like, okay, I'm just gonna work out for 10 minutes and gonna be done for the day. Well, maybe it can work for some people, but for CMT people, it most likely will not, because you will tire yourself so much, even within those 10 minutes, that you will have to recover for 2 or 3 days. So let's stay away from high intensity training. Of course, you should challenge your body, you should increase probably intensity the more trained you become, and that's actually how it usually works. But you should not be doing everything at the peak of your abilities. The third recommendation or advice I would give you is to be consistent in your exercising and to do it in doses. So you should be exercising almost every day, if not every day. Of course, it's hard to do difficult workouts, hard workouts every day, and we don't need to do that, but we do need to be active consistently and every day. And we should not be sitting for a long period of time. So many people, including people with CMT, lead a sedentary lifestyle. And nothing basically can be worse than that. So we should not be sitting for 8 or 9 or 10 hours straight. We should be moving. Here you can argue, well, I am working, I go to the office every day, and I do have to sit for 8 or 9 hours. You know what? I do work too, and I go to the office every day, and I do have to work for 8 or 9 hours every day. But I've attempted to solve this problem by bringing a yoga mat to my office. This might seem strange to people. It might seem strange for my colleagues as well, but I care about my health more than I care about what other people think and how they would look at me when I do these things. So what I did is I brought a yoga mat to my office. I unravel it every day, and I do a 10-minute stretch every day before lunch. So when I wake up, I do a little bit of stretching, then I do 10-15 minute or stretching session before lunch. Sometimes I do a stretching session after lunch as well, around 4 p.m. Or I just walk around the office. So I just walk up and down the hall, or I go out. Going out and having a walk is also a very good idea, especially if you have a good weather. But it is really making a difference, and I really noticed how much difference it makes. So what happened was, before I brought a yoga mat to my office, I started having pain in my hip. So I had been struggling with knee pain for quite a while, and the only thing that helped is exercise, as well as hip pain. And again, the only thing that helps is exercise. But once I started working in the office, before that I had been working in a lab because I was doing a PhD. So in the lab, I was more active. I was doing wet lab work, so I wasn't sitting all day most of the days. But once I joined the office, I had to sit, and it really took a toll on me. So every day after work, I would still do exercise, but my hip was not happy. It just kept hurting, although I was doing exercise specifically designed to strengthen and uh, stretch the muscles of my legs, quadriceps, for example, but it wasn't helping. So I decided to bring the yoga mat to the office. And in addition to my walks back and forth the hall of the office, in addition to my walks outside, I started doing stretches before lunch, and that really helped. So these 10-15 minute stretches that I do, including the ones for my hip, really helped get rid of pain. So many people with CMT actually complain about pain among my subscribers, among people that I see in the Facebook group, for example. And oftentimes it's not neuropathic pain. Oftentimes it's just so-called mechanical pain. So you just need to fix specific muscles. You need to strengthen or stretch specific muscles. And if you fix them this way, the pain will go away. Of course, I am not saying that all the pain can be dealt with exercise. No, if you do have pain, especially for a long period of time, the pain that you cannot get rid of, you should talk to your health provider. But in my experience, all the pain that I have, I deal with by just exercising. In addition to yoga mat, I brought some weights to the office, which I put around my ankles, which I put around my feet actually, and I exercise my feet. I try to strengthen the muscles of the feet and of the lower part of the legs. I will show you these weights later on in this video. The next recommendation I want to give you is that you should listen to your body when you do exercising. I don't actually like this phrase, listen to your body, because especially if you have a disease, it's very hard to understand what your body wants. Does it want to rest? You always feel tired, right? So fatigue is actually a big symptom of CMT, and it's very hard to deal with it. Sometimes you're just fatigued for no reason. It seems like you've slept but you don't feel refreshed, and you always feel tired, you don't want to exercise. But actually exercise can deal with fatigue, and it can help fatigue. This is not only my experience, it's really been shown in studies as well. So particularly short cardio workouts can help with fatigue. So listening to your body is really not easy if you have CMT, but to some extent you have to do that, and you have to understand what your body is telling you. Like I just explained to you, if something hurts, I try to fix it with exercise, and it worked for me in 100% of the times so far. And sometimes it's actually really counterintuitive. You might feel like you're tired, you don't want to exercise, but you exercise and you do feel better. So in this regard, listening to the body is very difficult to do, but the more you exercise, the more you will understand how much you need. And you don't have to follow a specific regime, you don't need to do cardio on Monday, strength on Tuesday, balance on Wednesday. No, you do need to have specific goals in mind, right? You do need to do a certain amount of cardio training every week, as well as strength and balance and so on. But you don't have to do a certain type of workout this day if you feel really bad. And if you haven't recovered, just skip the workout or do a much lighter version of what you planned to do. The next recommendation I would give you is to increase the load gradually. And of course, this is kind of common sense, but many people don't follow this advice. If they start exercising, they start doing a lot and everything at the same time. This is not a good approach. You have to build up endurance and strength. So if you have never exercised, start very light. Start from 10-15 minute stretch session, then do a short cardio the next day, then try to incorporate some light weights, for example 500 ml 500 milliliter water bottles, something like that, and then you can increase to 1 kilogram weights, then to 2 kilograms. And actually for women, I think 2 kilogram weights is enough. Again, that depends on the individual, on your age, on your disease progression. There are many parameters to take into account, but I don't use weights higher than 2 kilograms. And in fact, I prefer to work with the weight of my own body, because the weight of my own body is much bigger and I can do all kinds of resistance training with my own body. I can do push-ups, planks, sit-ups, and so on. The next advice is not to follow routines or workouts that include exercise which can make you prone to trauma. And for people with CMT, this is particularly relevant in terms of ankles, right? We are not stable in our ankle area. So we do want to avoid movements which can lead to trauma. So this includes running, jumping, all kinds of roller skating, snowboarding. Most likely you can't do these things anyway, but if you can to some extent, but then you start doing it and you lose control of your ankles, you might fall, trip, and it's not going to end up very well. So I've actually experienced this already. I started doing Zumba, and Zumba is very intense. It's a really good cardio workout, And if you don't have CMT, it's probably really great, unless you overdo it. But for people with CMT, I don't recommend it because you have to jump. If you don't jump and you do Zumba, okay, although it's gonna be hard to accomplish, I think. But I started doing Zumba and I did it for like maybe half a year or something like that. I was jumping a lot and then my knee started hurting. And basically, I think that was the trigger for my knee pain. And now I have to deal with it on a regular basis. I have to do exercise to fix my knee pain. But the trigger, I feel, was Zumba and jumping. So if you don't have a severe form of CMT, you might be able to still do jumping and running and all these things, but please be careful if you do that. Maybe think about supporting your ankles using some kind of supports, bandages, whatever, or just stop doing this kind of exercise altogether. Now, the truth is, we all get worse. Our condition gets worse with age, and it's true not only about people with CMT. Yes, if you do have a disease, you kind of age faster in a way because you already have specific limitations, physical limitations that the disease imposes on you. And you might not be able to do a lot of things that the people of your age do. But aging is a huge normalizer. It really normalizes everybody. So the older we become, the more our disease progresses, the more likely we are to develop more diseases, now age-associated diseases. But exercise is really a good way to prevent these diseases from occurring in the first place, or rather to extend the time when you are disease-free. So of course, aging will get to all of us, unfortunately. It's very hard to admit, but it is true. And although there is a lot of research actually now going on in the anti-aging field, it's still very hard to know how we can fight aging. But there are certain lifestyle choices you can make, including exercise, which will make you feel healthier and younger and will actually make you competitive even with healthy people. Because if you've been exercising all your life, at the age of 50, if you have CMT, you even might be able to feel better than a person without CMT who has never exercised. Because now, by the age of 50, they have all these issues that are caused by inactivity, by bone loss, by muscle atrophy, which is caused by aging in their case. So I strongly encourage you to think about exercise and incorporating physical activity in your daily life. As I said, I will be uploading videos with all kinds of workouts. The one that I already have in English, well, actually, there is no speech in this video. You can just follow along. There is no voice, it's just exercise. You can follow along, and it's ballet inspired workout because I used to dance, including ballet like dancing. So, and I really love ballet. So I decided to do a workout which is ballet inspired, but it is obviously not for ballet dancers. I'm not a ballet dancer myself because I cannot do it. I have CMT. And this workout is only 20 minutes, but it is going to increase your strength, your endurance, and your flexibility. So check it out. This is my sports equipment that I have at home. As you can see, it's not a lot and it's all really cheap. You can easily get everything from Amazon and use it. So the first thing, of course, is the shoes. These are Nike. I really like them. They're very comfortable for me. And oftentimes I do exercise wearing supports, for ankle supports like that, especially if I'm doing some more kind of trauma prone movements like dancing, for example. Of course, again, as I mentioned, I try not to do any rapid movements, any jumping, any running, but to stabilize ankles when I do dancing, I do use ankle supports. This is a knee support, which I don't use anymore, but I used to use it when my knee was really bad. So now I don't need it because I do manage to deal with my knee pain by just exercising and strengthening specific muscles. This is a knee pad. So it's not really a support, it's just a pad which you can put on, and if your knees hurt, especially if you do, let's say, push-ups off of your knees, you just put this on your knee and it's nice and soft, and you don't risk injuring your knee by just putting it on the mat. Next, here are the red weights, and they are designed to be used as ankle weights, I think, but I use them to strengthen my leg muscles this way. So I put it like this, and I put one leg on top of the other, and then I lift and slowly put it down. Again, lift and slowly let it go down. So this way I'm strengthening these muscles, which are also quite weak in CMT. And these are the weights I keep bringing back and forth to my office and home. So this kind of exercise I would actually recommend to everybody with CMT, and to do them every day. Again, I have a video where I explain how to do this. I might record it in English if there is interest from you guys. And I also have these, which I bought for a number of reasons. But I actually haven't used them that much. So these are adjustable. As you can see, this one has all its weights in. This one has only 2, and 3 are empty. So I did plan to upgrade from this, because these are just half a kilo, to these, and increase the load for my ankles to strengthen my shin muscles better. But I haven't really used them much. I feel like these guys are enough, especially if I do more repetitions. But maybe with time I will move to these ones. And these can also be used as weights just for legs, for arms, for all kinds of strength exercises. Here I have 1 kilo weights. I also have 2 kilo. Next, I have these resistance band, which I use for feet, which I will also show you in a separate video. This one is for bigger muscles of the upper leg. Again, I will show you how to use this guy as well. Here I just have 2 pillows, which again I use for the knees. And again, I will show you how I use them. And yoga blocks, yoga bricks. They are also useful for all kinds of exercise as stabilizing or otherwise. And I have a tennis ball over there, which I use to relax my muscles, let's say muscles of the feet. And I have a little belt, which I use for belly dancing. So that's another point actually I wanted to bring up. You do need to find activities that you love doing. Otherwise, what's the point of kind of making yourself do some workout which you really hate? It's not gonna stick. You actually have to choose something that you really love doing. Therefore, if you do like dancing, please dance. Please do as much as you can in front of the mirror. It's really fun. Put on some funky clothes. Do whatever you like. At home, you can do anything you like, and just enjoy it. Please subscribe to my channel. I do want to make a lot of content about CMT for CMT people in English, so that more people can get reliable information about this disease. based on scientific evidence. I'm always reading research studies. I always follow what's going on in the science world of CMT, and I really want to share with all of you what I learned from reading all this stuff. So please subscribe, like this video, and share with your CMT friends. Okay, bye bye.